Hello and welcome to my video all about how to knit 2/1 cables, otherwise known as 2/1 cables. These are created simply by taking 2 stitches over 1. I'll be showing you 4 different variations: the 2/1 LC, the 2/1 RC, the 2/1 LPC and the 2/1 RPC. As I've mentioned, 2/1 means 2 stitches over 1 stitch, and LC means left cross, RC means right cross, LPC means left purl cross, and RPC means right purl cross. They're very easy to do and you'll find them in many different cable patterns. In my previous video I demonstrated 1/2 cables, which you can see in this knitted sample here. They've all been knit on a stockinette background, and as you can see I've also added a garter stitch border at each side. The first cable I'm going to show you is the 2/1 left cross, which involves taking 2 knit stitches over 1 knit stitch. Okay, so first I slip 2 stitches purlwise onto my cable needle. Because it's a left leaning cable, the cable needle is then held at the front. I then knit 1 stitch off the left hand needle, and this stitch therefore goes behind the 2 stitches on the cable needle. And lastly, I knit the 2 stitches off the cable needle. As you can see, this produces a cable that's 2 stitches wide and is left leaning. This cable has been passed over 1 knit stitch, which you can just about see in the top right. I'm now just going to do a knit stitch to separate this cable from the next one, and then I'm going to show you how to do the 2/1 right cross. Again, this is worked over 3 stitches where 2 knit stitches are passed over 1 knit stitch. Firstly, I slip 1 stitch purlwise onto my cable needle. Because this is a right leaning cable, the cable needle is held at the back. I then knit 2 stitches from the left hand needle, and these stitches therefore pass in front of the 1 stitch on the cable needle. And lastly, I knit the stitch off the cable needle. And this produces a right leaning cable that's 2 stitches wide. The cable has been passed over 1 knit stitch, which you can see in the top left. And here you can see the 2/1 left cross and the 2/1 right cross side by side, with the left leaning cable on the right side here, and the right leaning cable on the left side. And now I'm going to move on to show you the 2/1 LPC, otherwise known as a left purl cross. This is basically the same as the 2/1 left cross, except that it now involves purl stitches. When knitting cables like this, you'll nearly always find that it's the purl stitches that are passed behind. So in this example, we're going to be passing 2 knit stitches over a purl stitch. Okay, so for the 2/1 LPC, we first slip 2 stitches purlwise onto the cable needle. The cable needle is then held at the front. You then need to take the working yarn between the needles to the front, and then purl a stitch from the left hand needle. This purl stitch therefore passes behind the 2 stitches on the cable needle. And lastly, the working yarn goes to the back again, and you knit the 2 stitches off the cable needle. Please note that I'm knitting these cables on the right side of my knitting. On the wrong side, I'm doing purl stitches to create the stockinette cables. And as you can see here, that's produced a left leaning cable that's 2 stitches wide. And this cable has passed over 1 purl stitch, which you can see at the top right. And finally, we're on to the last cable, which is the 2/1 RPC, otherwise known as the 2/1 right purl cross. Again, this is basically the same as the 2/1 right cross, except it involves a purl stitch. So in this case, again, we're going to be passing 2 knit stitches over 1 purl stitch. So we slip 1 stitch purlwise onto the cable needle, and because it's a right leaning cable, the cable needle goes to the back. Then we knit 2 stitches from the left hand needle, so these pass in front of the stitch on the cable needle. Then we bring the working yarn forwards and purl the stitch off the cable needle. This produces a cable that's right leaning and 2 stitches wide. It's been passed over 1 purl stitch, which you can see at the top left. You can recognise the purl because it's got a bump of yarn or a purl bump right next to the needle. And here you can see the 2/1 LPC and 2/1 RPC side by side. I really hope this video has been helpful to you, and thank you very much for watching.